My name is Dino. I've been working with tech for 23 years. I've been working professionally with games for 20 years. I'm mostly known for co-founding and running Playdead for around 10 years. Since then, I've done a company called JUMPSHIP that did a game called Somerville, and I'm also running a company called Coherence. And my goal for today is that if anybody of you kind of thinking about starting a company, like to inspire you to take the jump, and if you already did it, I hope to help you with some thoughts and some of the mindsets doing it. And it's also important for me to note that this, this of course is my perspective, and a lot of this is my thought processes derived from the values I have and my experiences leading me to my goals. So take it with a grain of salt. But all of these are things when I made the talk that I thought it would have been nice to know when I was starting out. So it's a talk that lasts half an hour, and it's hard to go in depth, but I thought about 5 fundamentals I find very, very important for when you want to start your company. It's vision, risk, valuation, which maybe becomes a bit technical, team, and then I'll end up talking about you. These are the vision basics, and this is very simple. This is also sometimes something you can kind of look up, but a vision is there for you to kind of picture yourself a clear, compelling future. It's for you to motivate yourself, and it's for you to motivate a team. It's something that helps you along the way to keep your eyes on the longer term goals, because it's so easy to be bogged down in the short term. It's something that can both attract investors, partners, employees, but it's also something you can use to select the right partners, investors, employees. It's something you can use whenever you think about how you want to build your company culture. And lastly, it's something that you can use to differentiate yourself in a very early stage. And I want to start out with some my story and some of it that relates to vision. So I started as an employee in the tech industry when I started out, and I shifted to games in around 2003. In 2005, I quit my job because I thought the game industry was shit. It was hard. I started consulting. But I remember when I started as a consultant, I had this urge of creating a product. I remember that, you know, if you just sell your own time, you're just limited. You're limited by your own time. So already at that point, I had the thought that I wanted to find some kind of product, something that I could make and it could be replicated. So this was the start of things. And in the end of 2005, I met Arndt, as some of you know, and we created Playdead. And I remember my main motivation here was that I kind of felt I found my product. I felt that we could build a vision that was like worth it for me to kind of jump into this. And for me, it was kind of the big driver's license in trying to find out what it is to have a vision. Because it was kind of 10 years just with a deep focus on the vision, which was, you know, deep artistic independence and creative freedom. I learned how powerful it was to communicate. I learned how it was to communicate to partners. I learned how it was to fight for. And you know, we were sticking stubbornly to this, and it was kind of fun because it's learning about how powerful a vision is. I think, I can tell it to you now, but for 10 years in a row, fighting and trying to do something again and again, getting a feedback and a positive feedback loop, which sometimes, it takes a year to get a positive feedback loop. You have an idea, and then after a year you see, okay, now we have 5 employees that fit into that vision. Okay, it actually feels good. You say no to something, and it feels good because you find out a long time after it was a good choice because that's helped you stick to the vision. Even at one point in the history of Playdead, we had some investors, and they wanted to sell the company, and they wanted to sell it to Ubisoft. And I remember it was such a hard choice for us to say no to that, but it just felt that not saying no to that would completely ruin that vision in so many ways. I also learned that even if you're just making a game, you can still touch the hearts of people around the globe. So when I started JUMPSHIP, my goal was to kind of continue that with like a focus on independence and creative freedom. This time it was just around Chris Olsen's vision. And again, the example is here that we only choose partners that could help us keep the creative vision. We had NetEase as investors, and they were chosen because they were the ones that said that they invested in us for our vision and not to change anything. And it was also, we recently sold the company to Thunderful, and it was again the same. There was, because this company that bought us was fully aligned with what we wanted to do with the company, that we could do it. With coherence, it was a lot of things coming together. Coherence is a network technology, but it started out with a lot of talks about where are games going. And I also at that time thought a lot about multiplayer games, and I thought about, should I do a multiplayer game? I'm really fascinated about, how is it to create a story in a multiplayer environment. But again, it all clicked because the feeling of making a technology where we could enable other people to be creative and iterate. And suddenly we came up with that idea that felt big enough. So what I learned was you can cultivate a vision. I don't think that when you are young that you maybe are born with having a vision. I think for me it was something that I learned by the positive feedback loop. The positive reinforcement. It's important to learn how to communicate it. I've never been really, really good at writing down like any vision I had. But I think in any steps of my life, when I did something with my companies, I always been really, really good at communicating it. And if you ask me about it, I can talk day in and day out about it. And I also learned that the better you become in communicating what your vision is, actually the easier everything becomes. People understanding your vision, people understanding what you're doing just removes barriers. Also, if there's holes in your vision, you kind of figure that out early on as you start talking about it. And I think it's so important to clear out, like, when you start a vision, that's the cheapest point for you to kind of find out if this is a good way to go. I also found out that having a big vision is better than a small vision, and it maybe seems self-explanatory, but how are you going to motivate yourself with a small vision? How are you going to motivate your employees with something planned? It's kind of, for me, defeats the purpose of having a vision at all. So it's better to have a big one. The other thing I learned also is that to continue to use your vision, like, you can have it and you can think about it, but then when you start working, the vision gets tainted, because when you start out, you have a really pure and clear idea always, and there's no problems in that idea. There's always perfect. And then when you go into it, there's a day-to-day thing, there's problems, there's things that doesn't work out. And if you don't always go back and think about what was the original intent with this, you often get lost in the day-to-day of it. And something I do myself, and this is like kind of an exercise, is like when I go around my own time, I run, I do something like when I'm not officially at work, I kind of just always take on the original vision. I try to go in and visualize how was it, what was the original feeling I wanted to have of this? Is it still what we have in the company? Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is, you need to go back and reevaluate. That's why it's important to kind of always use it. And you should use it when you prioritize and when you decide your focus. Is your prioritization aligned with what the vision was? And also when you hire and partnering. Will the person you sit in front of you that you consider hire, will that person help you complete this vision? Will this partner help make this vision? It's really important. And then I think emotion is like, you can almost not have a vision without invoking emotion. I mean, if a vision don't have a component that makes you either excited or happy or gives you some kind of feeling, I think it's hard. And again, I think as long as you work with humans, it is this key element. If you don't have a vision that kind of sparks something in yourself or other people, it's useless. And the last point is, I think you should never make money part of the vision or any goal, to be honest. It is such a flat and emotionless motivator. And what would happen if you got enough? Would you then stop? I mean, I tried to both have little money and a lot of money, and in the end, it doesn't make a difference, especially not if you want to achieve something big. And I have these exercises I use myself a lot, and the first one is just like trying to vividly imagining your vision. Like when you sit and you are thinking about starting a company or have started a company, try thinking about what is the end goal, what does it give you, what is the feeling in your body if you achieve this. Taking yourself forward to the future and experiencing the feeling you would get hitting your goal, I think is a cheat code, because you kind of already get a bit of that like feeling, and I do that often enough, and you will compel yourself to go toward that goal. And what is the story? What is the story from the point where you are now to the end goal? Is it a good story? And again, what emotion is it invoking in you? Try explaining it to others. It's actually, when you explain it to others, you often can hear your own bullshit. And I just think it's very powerful. The vision has to get out at one point, right? If you need other people to help you lift it, you need to start talking about it. And you kind of need to look at how do they look when you talk about it. I mean, here in America, like, people are so nice, and you tell what you're doing, and everybody says, "Oh, it sounds good," you can tell anything, and everybody here says. But you need to look at how, like, are they smiling? Are they really taking it in? Or are they just being polite? The other thing is also, if you do it and you kind of want people on the vision, like, does your vision would it include more people than you? Like, is it an egoistic vision, or would it include other people? Is your vision worth fighting for? Because this is never going to be an easy thing. Like, I mean, it's always a fight to come from nothing to create something of nothing. It don't take zero effort. There's always a lot of fighting, because you also want other people fighting for it, and you probably also want other people putting money in it. And if the vision is not strong enough to hold that, it's pretty hard. And again, the last thing is, are you working on the right vision? as I said, like in the start, where you have the vision, this is the easiest time to kind of decide if this is worth like working on. And working on the, like, yeah. It's easier to become successful working on the right vision than putting effort into the wrong vision. A great vision is the fuel that propels us forward, challenging us to push beyond our limits and reach new heights. With that comes risk and the possibility of failure. You have to take risk. In game industry, you have to take risk. I'm pretty sure. I think not taking risk and doing something common is kind of the most risky path here. There's so many games. There's so many standard games. Every game has been made, right? The only way to make a game that hasn't been made before is to take risk. So with risk, the only thing that is with risk is like you need to manage it and find the balance. And the fun thing with risk is that it's invisible from the outside. And when you look at any game production, it usually looks like this: that you find the finished game on Steam, and you think that the people who made it, they just had an idea about this game and they made it. And this is normal. And the fun thing with risk is actually that risk is kind of like pain. It's such a momentary thing. Even people working on any project can have a lot of risky situations, and at any points have such a hard time with choices and prioritization. But when you often reach your goals, if they're set up correctly, all the risk is gone. There's nothing left. Like everything. And when you think back about it, it's like, what was the risk? Like, of course we did these choices. And this is usually how it is. There's a starting point and you have a vision. And the vision is not a point usually, right? It's a feeling of a place you want to go. And you start off with nothing and you iterate and you try to go towards your vision and it doesn't work, and you go a bit like another direction, and slowly you to get close to the vision. But of course you never hit it because the vision is big, right? The vision has everything. The vision is always perfect and has like all of these ideas, but the game is a thing, right? You have a controller maybe or something that there's choices that needs to be made. It needs to be a specific thing. And it's all about managing the risk in this. As a side note, if you are inexperienced, you usually only look for the budgets that take you the direct path. And that's why you end up crunching, because you actually need to do this. Then there's valuation. Just bear with me for a moment here. This is maybe a bit technical, but of course, I don't really know the concept of valuation. It's the value of the company, and when you start up the company, it's the value of you, because you are the company and you're the only person. And this consists of time and money. It's your team and team history. A lot about the founders, but it's always the whole team. It's what you have produced, the IP rights in game product. It's technology, blah, blah, blah. It's also external validation. If you already have customers, if you have early access, if you have a community, that's also value. You should have backers. And then there's the soft elements that actually also can affect your valuation. The reputation and the culture. And why am I talking about such a technical thing? The thing is, when you start out the first time, you have nothing. And the whole, your job is to make as much value as possible before you let external money in. And it usually looks like this. The left part is maybe your own value. That is the time you put in. And the right side is the external money. And what happens when you understand how that is all about putting in as much value as possible, you kind of get to a place where you get more and more power. And in the end, like what I'm trying to say is that when you start your first company, you often get offered shit deals, and this is why. So it's always like the more time you can use, the more you can put into this before taking external money, the more control you end up having in the end. And I call it valuation steps. And in Playdead, we started from scratch, and it was, of course, really, really hard. We started with not so many things, and that was also the reason why we had we lost control along the way, and we actually also ended up with less than 50%. But what changed since then was that I came out of that building new things, but I came both with experience and I came with my own money. And for example, in JUMPSHIP, I used my own money until we came to a vertical slice, and that just made everything much easier. Then I have a point about the team. There's a lot to say about this topic, and I'm already almost running out of time, I can see. You need a team to leverage your own time. So unless you're a one-man band and you do your own game, which I will not recommend, I know a lot of people that have done it, and it's seemingly more hard than if you have a team. So you need a team to leverage something bigger, and you need a team to work for you, because it's critical if you want to build something that's bigger than you. A vision in a vacuum is nothing. Without execution, ideas are worthless. You always want to hire people that are better than you. And I'm not talking about juniors and interns, because I see them as an investment you do in your company, and you can do that later on the line when you want to scale more. But in the start, you only want to have people that are better than you. You want self-motivated people. Again, in the beginning, this is gold. The only way you can leverage your own time is if you find this. The team skills are defining what you can create. You either create what your team can make, or you have to hire people with skills that can create your vision. You cannot do anything else. And the last point is culture. And again, this is a big and huge topic. But in all the companies I've started, this has been one of the key things. You and the first people in the company are going to define how this is shaping up. And culture always trickles down. And there's a lot of soft factors going into this. But I think in the end, it just comes down to your values and your behavior. And I know this is not the most important thing, but I also think that it's important to look at the work environment. Because is this where you want to have your grand ideas? Is this where you want to be creative? Or is it like this where you play board games and you kind of have a more loose environment? And I think it's maybe a smaller thing of culture, but I still feel like the place you spend most of your time, it's really important it's cozy. It's really important that it's a place you want to be. It's really important it's a place where all of your employees want to come, where they have a good time. And that's also why I always, again, whenever I started, have made a big deal out of making everybody feel really good and taking good care of my employees. And the last thing is you. You will always start inexperienced. That's how it is. And most people start as, a graphic designer, game designer, coder, sometimes also from business. And that's how it is. And you just need to learn. You need to learn immensely fast. And it's important that you like to learn. And you learn to like to learn. You need to learn leadership skills. You need to learn to prioritize. You need to learn to communicate your vision. You need to learn to leverage your skills. You need to learn to negotiate. You need to learn to hire. This becomes such a key skill of doing this, and you need to really learn to love it, because there will be a lot of stress and pressure, and if you don't learn to kind of navigate it and really kind of also in some sick way enjoy it, it just becomes like really, really tough. I also think like you have to be critical of yourself and be able to take critique. It's so easy to fool yourself. It's super, super tough. I've taken a lot of critique, and I'm also really, really critical of myself. And it's not easy to be honest to yourself. It's easier to hear what you want to hear, but I think it's really important for you to grow and actually to be able to learn. I also don't think, in the end, nobody cares about your goals. If you're good at the vision, you make people care about the vision. But it's actually, I think, being an entrepreneur is kind of also a very lonely position. You're often alone with your thoughts. You cannot expect anyone to be sorry for you. All of the risk you have is by choice. So you cannot go and cry to anybody because this is something you choose. You can also not do it. And you're also always trying somewhat to do something that's personal for you. And again, looping a bit back to vision, that's why I think it's important to have that. You need to have that feeling of where you're ending up. And also you have to have that feeling of it being bigger than yourself and it including people. Because if it includes people, they will care a bit more about you. You need to level up. You need to, going through different projects and companies, you need to level up. This is the only thing you bring with you. And in my own example, it was kind of scary to start up a new company after Playdead. You build up a lot of things around you. You have everything handled. There's system for everything, and suddenly you start from square one. And you just have to rely on your experience, and you have to learn again. You have to learn new people to know. It was even scarier to start Coherence. It was it was in tech, and suddenly actually nobody even knew who I was, to be honest. Whoever we raised money for never heard about Limbo Inside. They didn't care about it. So I kind of just had to rely on raw experience of how to raise money and how to drive a company and all of that. But because I feel I leveled up in all of this, I brought myself, I brought my experience. Obviously, I also brought some money. It helps. I actually think I maybe need to skip this because I'm very much over time. Just in short, I just want to say that there is an age for everything, and I think you need to do your biggest risk as you are in your 25 to 35. When you're above that, you can take risk. I still take risk, but I only take calculated risk. And again, the example for me is that when I started Playdead, I bet everything I had at that point. Luckily, there wasn't a lot, so it didn't matter if we failed. But now, I can only afford to take calculated risk. But I take a lot of risk, but it's always calculated because, now it's different, right? Pitfalls. Avoid trends and the idea of quick win. That's in the game industry. There's so many fucking trends, and it's so annoying, right? It's AI now, right? It was NFTs last year. Then it was a bit of VR, right? And it's like, I just think you need to have a vision of something that stands the test of time. And again, now, as I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've seen so many trends come and go. And you need to find something that and that's what we work on multiplayer tech, because multiplayer will always be there. We can maybe, do some metaverse shit, I don't know. But in the end, I don't want to rely on these short-term trends. There's a lot of big tech companies trying to convince you to make these things. and they sometimes also pay you money. You know, you get money to do your VR game. But when you're taking money, you are trading off short-term gain for your long-term goals. And it's fine, but you actually don't have a limited time. You can only do this a couple of times. If you do this a couple of times, you never end up reaching your goal because, you know, time's up. So think about it when you take those dirty money. Yeah, talent, that's not good for culture. I have many times met a lot of really, really talented people that were not good for culture, and I don't think you should ever trade off sacrificing culture for somebody that's really talented. It's not worth it in the end. It's better to have a good culture in a company. That will serve you better in the long run. And then there's loss of focus. Nobody cares about your focus. Nobody cares about your time. You get so much inbound. And I think the more success you have, the more inbound you get. I get so many mails. And like a big learning I've made is just saying no to fucking everything. It feels hard in the beginning, and you also sometimes feel rude, but I mean, in the end, it just becomes such an important skill. You cannot read all mails. You cannot be looking into every technology that's been offered for you. I actually very, very rarely got inbound that was worth yes. Very few times. But most of the times, it's me researching the market, understanding what's happening around me, finding some things, and then me going for things I want. I just think that it's so easy to lose focus in the company and not do what you're supposed to do. This is my last slide. This is the conclusion. Nobody will remember your small vision. Always go big. It's easier to go big sometimes. You can only hire level 10 talent for a level 10 idea. That's how it is. So why not? And there's almost no downsides to have a big vision. The only thing is, as I talked about with the evaluation steps, there's a maximum for how big the vision can be compared to where you are. Your first game or project will be the hardest birth. And I only tried my own first birth once, of course, but I really feel like this is what levels you up the most. This is where you take the hardest hit. From that point on, it's not downhill, but it only gets better. If you need to, cut scope, not quality. And I learned this the hard way. Find like-minded people and share ideas. I think the way I learned the most was by doing this. Finding mentors. I started going to GDC in 2010, and a lot of my friends or colleagues from here learned me a lot about how to drive a company, and gave me a lot of answers of things I needed. And it's usually like-minded. It's other company owners that kind of give you what you need. And you can also share your ideas. This is a fun thing. And it actually, I thought about it going over here because, I mean, if you're kind and generous, this has opened so many doors for me. It's crazy. Like, you go around, you're a good person, people want you to meet other good people. And I mean, if you think about it's just opened more doors than I ever could pay for. That I get introduced. This person introduced me to this person randomly because they just think, you know, you're nice. Like you need to exchange ideas. And it really has. I think looking back at it has been one of the things that's been the most helpful. Yeah, my last point is never stop learning. When you go through any type of process, to hit a goal, you quickly realize that if you're not putting enjoyment in the process, your enjoyment will be really short because all of your goals are just these small bleeps in this timeline. And that's why I think it's equally important to put focus on the process and not just put focus on the goals. Because I hit my goals a couple of times, and it is a really short joy. And some of the times I actually kind of, if I didn't take care, like if I didn't think about what my next goal would be, I would kind of be a bit depressed about it. So my point is just here, like I think the process of what you're making is even as important. So even though it's hard to start your company, or it's that is hard to like do the negotiation, all these things. You kind of have to find a way to make the process enjoyable, because the goal will not be what you think it is. You hit it, you're happy for 3 months, you release that game, you're happy for 3 months, but after that there's a life. Even if that goal make you financially independent, it doesn't matter. You still need to have like a path forward. Yeah, that's my talk. So I went 5 minutes over. I could take questions if there's anything. Yeah?
Good afternoon.
And no life stories, as Elon Musk says.
Okay, so my question is, you said you've started one company and later had to start another, and the only thing you carry with you is your, your own knowledge. But I feel like the company I have, which does comics and animation, is adjacent to gaming. Do you have any advice for how I could port over the success in comics and animation into, let's say I'm trying to get funding, or just someone interested in, hey, we already have these comics. Would you partner with us to make the game? Because we already have a certain level of success in comics and animation, but we've done absolutely nothing in gaming.
Yeah, no, I think it's a hard crossover, to be honest. As I said, when I shifted to tech, I felt like I started from the bottom again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thanks.
I think every aspiring entrepreneur has a vision, right? And as you said, you need more than that. You need a team. And it can be paralyzing trying to find a person to fit a specific role, especially if you don't know anything about it. Like if you're a programmer and you need an artist, how do I know if your portfolio is good? So as you've built these teams, do you have any advice on how to build a team out for areas that you have no familiarity with?
But I mean, don't you have a feeling of it? Like, you know what looks good, right?
You have an idea, but there are people who are really good at kind of BSing their way through things. And I think as the less experience you have, the more likely it is that you're going to be exploited by people who are good at doing that.
But as you probably also saw in my talk, I'm not good at graphics myself. But I feel I can see good graphics. I can see if there's emotion in it. I can see other people being talented in it. But I don't know if yeah.
So it's a feeling.
Yeah, I think it's a feeling. I mean, as I said, like you need to do the negotiation. You need to be able to turn them on. But I think you're the one. If you're in the one at the rudder, you're choosing, I guess, what the graphics is.
Makes sense. Thank you. So follow your gut.
Thank you. I hope it helps.
You're actually next. Yeah. Do you do advisory for startups, game startups?
Yeah, I've done a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to contact you about advising mine. So.
You can mail me.
Great.
I'd probably say no.
That's okay. That's okay. Just read the email. Just read the email. Thank you.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you for your presentation. When you made your first transition from employee to business owner, how did you secure funding? Did you do, because you had no experience, so was it crowdfunding, was it grants, was it VC? Can you just share your experience?
But there's 2 elements to that. First of all, I could do the bet because I have saved up some of my own money, and I could work for a year without money. And I had really low expenditures. As I said, there was a point of my life where I spent almost nothing on where I lived. So that's why it was kind of good for me to it was high risk, but what I risked was low. But we also got a grant of, was it $30,000, I think it was, at that point, which kind of helped, hire the first person and get to a point where we could find funding.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. But I would your expenditures, just keep them low. Like I think that's the best way to keep your risk low.
By the way, these two will definitely have to be the last questions.
Okay, last questions over here.
You mentioned culture a couple of times. I was curious if you had anything more specific in terms of like any starter like culture for a new indie studio, or like something that you experienced that you thought that worked well across your multiple companies.
Yeah, but I think like there's no right culture. I mean, the culture I appreciate is what I've created. And I just think it's important that people that I work with have a good life and have a good time. And I have some old Playdead employees here, and I hope they can attest to that we always. I don't know how it is now. I hope it's gone to shit. No, no, it's a joke. Don't write that down. No, but we always I always try to make it a good place to come. Like it's always like homey. Like we have sofas. We have like lunch for people. We have like fridges. Like we didn't have that from the beginning, of course, but we had like an idea. We have a fridge with everything you can drink and want in life and so on. We just wanted to be a place where you can you were proud to bring your family. But again, I don't know if that's the right vision. That's just how I like to have it. That's the workplace I want to come to. I mean, I think it's important just to create what you would like to come to, because you also need to attract the people that have it like that. I mean, I would not attract a accountant maybe because they want something else. Yeah. I hope that's enough answer.
When you started Playdead, were you driven by a specific vision for a particular game, or was it a more studio-level vision of the kind of experiences, and which do you think is more important for someone starting their own?
Yeah, I don't know. Arndt, my partner, he had the vision for the game, and I would say I had the studio vision, but we were... It's at one point we were so synergetic. It was hard. We met a couple of times a week and synchronized about everything around the company. So sometimes it was hard to find out who made the choice of what. But I mean, yeah, that was a split.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks a lot for coming.